Yeah. Listen. Yeah. I do. Yeah. That's what I do.
All right, do I have a motion to reconvene an open meeting?
So
Second? Second. All right. I think we motion to reconvene and then we certify. Okay. Yeah. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Is there a motion to certify that only public business matters exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, and considered in the meeting by the council? So second. Okay.
I certify.
I so certify.
I certify. I certify.
And I say so. All right. All right, and moving on under unfinished business, to the contract amendment for development. Do I have a motion to amend paragraph 3A, the feasibility study period from 120 days to 150 days on all four development agreement contracts, and authorize the mayor or town manager to execute this agreement?
Actually, the purchase agreements, not the development.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, the purchase.
The purchase agreements.
So,
Second. Any discussion? So we're just giving 30 more days in the feasibility study. I just want to state that publicly. That's the only thing that's changing right now. 30 more days. Nothing else changes at this point. Okay. Ms. O'Sullivan?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Duggan?
Aye.
And the mayor votes aye. All right. Ordinance 711. Amends the zoning ordinance, Article 9. Hold on, because I'm just going to get my papers together, because I have that other stuff out. Before I open public input, let's, staff report for the ordinance.
Staff has been working.
Yeah, you can, right?
Staff has been working.
Staff has been working with the Dodson Development Group, proposed townhouse development. They originally approached us about rezoning the property in order to adequately develop on the property for townhomes. The current zoning of the property where they want to develop is commercial residential, which allows multi-family use by right. Minimum lot area is 5,000 square feet. This property is approximately 2 acres, so they can build. But in the future, they want to, after construction and development, they would like to sell the properties as individual units. In order to do that, we looked at our zoning ordinance, and Planning Commission had reviewed it and is recommending staff and
The hearing at 7:23 p.m. Mr. Green has a statement that read his public hearing.
Mr. Green was unable to attend tonight, so he emailed me his comments. Jim Green, 336 12th Street. I have concern amending the ordinance development, and I fully support that. My concern is that reducing the lot size for all CR zone property could set a precedent not intended. As written, I believe that ordinance 711 structures such as a tiny house in CR zone property starting the timely manner would be to issue a variance to the Dotson Group for this project. Approving a variance to deviate the zoning ordinance, one time done deal for this development, but would have no effect on the CR zone. Thank you for your time and consideration of this comment.
Okay. Next is Mr. Santiago.
Hello again. I want to echo what Jim Green said, and I agree totally with him. That's what I said before. I think that opening or changing the zoning to accommodate the whole CR, I think is the wrong path for that project alone. And still, you gotta be very careful with 1.5. That for a town of this size, 1.5 is kind of at the limit you go. The 750, I think that is also too low. But
by increasing reducing the lot size and increasing the yield, and if you have seen the pictures, we will have flooding. We will increase the flooding. So please do this as a variance. Let's say that you want to do this, there are options. And sheds convert into houses. Everybody that has a shed in their house can now have a tiny house in their backyard. Actually, into 1 hour, you can have the size of the house. You can add dimensions to the size of the house there if you want to make this permanent. But please, don't put more strain in our infrastructure, our water management, and increase the problems that we currently have. Thank you.
Okay.
Paige Williams, I just want to say that, kind of to echo what everybody else is saying in very short words, we were totally in support of the Dodson Development Group and them having their development. However, I think that it should be a temporary variance and not affect the zoning ordinance permanently. That's about it.
David?
I just want to say that basically I agree with everybody, what everybody's saying. Hope the town council will take, the words of the citizens into consideration when they vote on this, but I don't see anything wrong with just a temporary variance for this very significant development we have coming to town. But to change the entire zone just for that is a bit concerning. I guess there's reasons, but going from 5,000 to 750 square feet, sounds extreme. So, just to the person who doesn't necessarily know a lot about zoning, it just seems concerning to me. So I would say, like everybody else has been saying, give them the variance and please consider the water runoff. I know it's a big deal in this town. If you try to put anything in your yard, you'll find out the hard way. That 36% is a very, hard and fast rule. So, but that's all I want to say. Thank you.
I don't know if anybody else signed up for a public hearing, so I will close the public hearing at 7:31 p.m. We will, I'm sorry, I'm looking for my agenda. I have a lot of papers up there. Okay, so we'll open the, ordinance amendment with a motion and a second, and we'll have discussion. Do you have a motion? So moved. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, so now it is open for discussion. Kathleen, I want to address go ahead and address some of the public comments.
I do.
Okay.
Lot coverage is to remain 36%. So, drainage, water runoff is not impacted with this text amendment. It's 36% everywhere in every zoning district, every parcel. The FAR is going to allow the building to go up. The increase in FAR is allowing the, three multifamily, which is by right. But when the lots get smaller because they want to subdivide the lots, then the FAR needs to increase or will increase. Also, the CR zoning district, very limited in the town, the number of properties and the areas that are zoned CR, as we discussed before. And and just overall, the purpose of the district is to provide for transitional mixture of uses. So this is a transitional commercial to residential. Commercial, you have a lot more uses, minimum lot size, and this is to transition from that type of use. Colonial in Washington, well, Washington's RT, but along Colonial Avenue is most of our commercial. And this is more transitional. We've got offices in this neighboring adjacent property. So this allows for a little bit more flexibility. It allows, really, it's just addressing how they want to sell the lots. They could build right now because they have 2 acres, and they could treat it like an apartment complex and rent the townhouses out, but their preference is to sell, and that's why we're addressing this at this time.
I want to address a couple more things and then I'll open for discussion. So sometimes I think zoning is so technical that things get lost in the public translation of what that means. And so I'm going to try to make it a little bit relatable. So commercial, residential in Colonial Beach, there are only about 8 blocks total that are zoned this in the whole town. It is this side of Washington Avenue, where we are right now, just this side of Washington Avenue. The other side is resort commercial. So it is from Hunan to the end of this block that we're sitting in right now, just this one side. And then it is First Street, because you have residential commercial down First Street. You got Cinex Tire, alternator place and Ola's and, Bobby's Studio. And there have been other offices in those houses even and stuff like that to the high school. That's it. There's only a couple blocks of it. It's very, very limited. When we talk about a CR zone, what Kathleen was touching on at the end is this transition between property. In commercial property, there's no lot minimum. There's 0 setbacks. It's dense. You want density. You want, to have walkability, hopefully, things like that. And then residential is that 5,000 square foot lot where you have houses with your picket fence kind of deal. So there's a transition zone between those two. And so keeping it at the 5,000 square foot lot really doesn't actually allow for much transition. And it's still keeping it kind of abrupt. The other point is that there are not many lots that aren't already built in this zone. Almost all of them are already built. So there's very few vacant lots that could possibly take a hold of this. However, I will say the important part is of the very couple places that are, this would be very helpful because it reduces some of those restrictions and allows for the smaller lot size can allow for townhouses. And so when we talked about with the Dotson, regardless of Dotson, because nothing should be done just for Dotson, okay? I want that to be clear. I would not, I would vote no to this if this was just for Dotson, okay? Because you're right, a variance just for Dotson is when it's just for Dotson. But here we're really talking about the bigger picture. We're talking about how our residential meets our commercial area, how we want a downtown that has urban ability to it, some density and a downtown, right? When you think of downtown, you think like one thing after the next, right? Storefronts and apartments and townhouses and condos, and it's got this mixed atmosphere to it. People work there, they live there, they play there, they beach there, the whole thing, right? So it's starting to try to create that. The FAR ratio just means it can go up, but we have a 35-foot height restriction in the town of Colonial Beach. And I personally, that's an important restriction to me because that variance that happened with the Renaissance condos went above that 35-foot height restriction. And I'm not real fond of how tall it is. That's personal. But, so the FAR going up means that they can have some density, but they still can't go over 35 feet. So we're not talking about tiny little like 8-foot high sky rises. It's more to accommodate this multifamily housing, which is townhouse development or apartment style development, or things that we want to attract in these exact places. Like this is the zone that we want to attract this to. So we want to make it feasible. And to me, this was something that has been an oversight for a long time in this zoning ordinance because we allowed for townhouses by right, but then we didn't have a lot size that accommodated it. So why would you say, yeah, sure, you can build a townhouse here. We'll sell it to you, telling you you can build a townhouse here, and then have a lot size that doesn't allow you to build a townhouse. That doesn't make any sense. So to me, if in those by right uses, you have these things that you can use this zone for, then the rest of the rules need to fall in line to what that actually means. What does that actually mean? So this to me is cleaning up the zone in many ways. Now, I will say, and I know I want Mike to talk because he's the liaison to the planning commission. He was there through all of their discussions and I was not, so I'm sure he has lots more to say than me. But I'm just trying to bring it to a place of like, as a person living in Colonial Beach, what does it mean to me? It means that yes, we are inviting townhouse developments. Yes, we are inviting some density. It is very specific to the exact place that we want to invite that to. And it is that transition zone between our residential and our commercial area. And that's the place it should go, right? We don't want it going all over the place. So we want to target it, and this is where we're targeting it, and we want to make things a little easier and it makes sense. We want it to make sense. We want our real estate market to succeed. And as far as the stormwater and infrastructure, those are things that we're going to be tackling for decades, okay? And building's going to happen. I mean, we have to tackle those things regardless. The 36% coverage ratio, though, is proportional. So if smaller, the building gets smaller. So actually it sizes with the lot size. I would be amenable to, instead of 750 square feet, 1,500 square feet. And that's as a part of this discussion here tonight. But I would like to hear from Mike as to why 750 exactly, before I say I would vote for an amendment to 1500. And just so, one other thing to kind of realize as we're thinking about this, people cannot create sheds into tiny houses, okay, for a couple of reasons. Number one, any accessory dwelling, which is acceptable in our code, in R2, and I think R3 and R, even in CR. Can you have an accessory dwelling in CR? Maybe. Accessory dwellings are allowed. They have to get inspected. Don't put your shed. It's not acceptable. A building inspector has to call. You have to call. You can't let people live in your sheds. Okay, so make sure that's clear. All right. Second is, but we do allow for accessory apartments because that's part of our heritage here in Columbia Beach. People come here to resort to vacation, to bring their family, to entertain their extended family, and that's been a long time, long time here in Columbia Beach. So lots of people have accessory apartments. That's good. We want to allow them, but we also want to check them for code violations, make sure they're safe, you know. Anyway, that whole 9 yards. But to have in a parcel in this zone, in this very small, limited zone, you still have to have 10 feet of street frontage. You still have to have, you know, certain parking spaces. You still have to meet setbacks. You still have to, you know, accommodate all these other rules. So that would eliminate the concept that you could just take like one interior lot and make like 15 little tiny lots out of it. That can't happen with this.
Subdivide.
Right. And if you subdivide in more than 2 parcels, then you have to meet the subdivision ordinance, which is pretty hefty if you haven't read that. So it's expensive and it's hefty. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of clarify a couple and try to bring the reality of zoning into context, because it's a lot of technical language sometimes that maybe can be misunderstood. So does that make sense? Okay, is that all? Mike,
So I mean, you discussed, Robert, a lot of the things that were talked about during the planning commission meeting. One of the things they looked at was the difficulty would be to try to subdivide lots that would create opportunities for somebody to say, let's put a lot of tiny homes there. The other thing we looked at was the by rights use, and then, like you said, the accessory structure use. And then for anything like vacation cottage complexes, anyway, that requires a conditional use again. So there were a lot of checks and balances set up. And the idea was that if you set up these townhomes, and if you create the way it would lay out in a townhome, you might end up with a center home that can't meet 1,600 or 1,500 square feet. It may be the ones on the end have more land, but the center one may not have more than 750 square feet. Nathan had looked at different examples from different towns and projects that he's worked on, and advised that 750 was kind of a standard that was used in a lot of the planning and developments that he'd been involved with for multifamily, to build on multifamily and a lot like that. So that's why the 750 was there. We looked at bigger than 750, but again, looking at when you start to create a townhome or a multifamily dwelling, 750 restricts you to the point where you have to give them some land, but they may not have that much land left to have as open land, you know, a front yard or a backyard to it or something. So it really was looking at mostly what you said, though, in terms of the ability to develop in townhomes and multifamily dwellings in a transitional space.
Karen, if you look right.
Yeah, Mike and Robin, you've addressed a lot of the issues that I was going to ask questions about. Number one, where are our CR properties in town? Obviously, this means that the planning commission, if they were to recommend rezoning of any of our land, we'd have to seriously consider it. Do we want to have this kind of development there before we would call it, put it in CR? The way I understand it is this basically allows for development in the form of individually owned townhouses, where somebody can build a project and then can sell those townhouses with fee simple interest. which is what we want. And right now, it doesn't seem that we have that ability in our zoning. Am I
Right.
correct? in that?
That's right.
Yeah, so for that reason, the 750, I don't, so you take 750, but they still, the house can only cover 36% of the lot. Does that meet with, I mean, for this project, I think 1,500 would do, so you could do smaller townhouses, I guess smaller townhouse units if we went as low as
I
750.
think part of our, and this is just my opinion, so this is just all part of the discussion, you know, you take what you want from that. I think part of living in Colonial Beach is outdoor space. Okay, that's just that's how I view living here. That's why I like to live here. Okay, I happen to have a pretty big backyard, which is unique. But I think front porch, back deck, outdoor living is a part of who we are as people. And so I think 750 is too small because I want to accommodate a little bit of yard, even if it's a townhouse development. And maybe in a really urban setting, like the places that we don't like to mention, north of us. 750 is a regular use, but I think Colonial Beach, we kind of have to adapt to our own personality. And so, anyway, that was just my feedback. I respect the planning commission's discussion on that. I'm not,
And that's really all it is,
You
it's
know.
a discussion and a recommendation to the council, so it's not a,
but looking at the example of Dotson, which is something for us to look at, is like if things like this, making changes like this mean we're going to be promoting development of this style. That example, they are having lots at like 1,800 square feet. And I think everybody in town has seen the imagery of that example because those digital graphics have been well distributed in town. And that seemed, I mean, I'll be honest, I think a lot of people were very acceptable of that, of understanding what that looks like. What does that actually mean on the ground? So that's where I think the 750 is too small. I think 1,500 is accommodates what people expect out of a townhouse to look like in the town of Clear Beach.
I just did a quick calculation. With a lot size of 750, your base house, you know, the foundation is gonna be 270 square feet.
Yeah.
I live in a 648 square foot house. I know what small is. And this is like my living room.
Well, people can, I mean, you can't tell somebody that they can't build smaller, but, you know,
That
I mean,
seems really small.
that's not true. There are building code regulations as to room size. So let me make sure that there is, you can't live in a 120 square foot house, okay? But you can in some places, not by Virginia State Building Code. So anyway, but, we're really trying to accommodate what the zone says, which is that multifamily dwellings are allowed. What does that mean? What does that look like? So I don't know. I'm better. I feel better about the 1,500, but that's my suggestion. I won't argue it anymore. Sorry.
So at 1,000, it would be a footprint of 360 square feet for the main floor, for the bottom floor. And at 1,500, it would be 540 square feet for the main floor.
Right. You still have to accommodate setbacks and other things too.
Yes, absolutely. But I'm just saying, this is the box you're gonna get. Now, at 1.5, what does that do for total square footage?
3 stories.
3 stories. So you could get, at 540, you could get a 1,500 square foot townhouse,
Right.
which is pretty big if you're,
Yeah, it's not tiny living, 1,500
No.
square feet.
so do we want to allow for a less expensive townhouse, I guess is my question, than a 1,500 square foot townhouse? I don't know.
You don't have to build 3 stories tall.
No, you don't have to.
Okay,
You
so
don't have
I
to.
don't think it really limits that. I don't think that translates.
Okay.
Other questions from this side?
Yeah, maybe, I feel more comfortable with 1,500 because of the pervious area you have to preserve. I think, where planning commission was getting 750 is probably more urban where they don't have runoff problems. So give them what you can build. I think 1,500, sure.
Okay. Tom, do you have any questions? No?
I like the 1,500.
We're back on the table. Mike,
I'm good.
you're good, you're right. Karen?
I would like us to see us consider 1,000, but
We want to talk about 1,000? No? Okay. I'm going to move forward. Okay. Kathleen, do you have anything else to add to the discussion?
No? Unless you have any questions for me?
So, I would like to amend the ordinance from 750 to 1,500 square foot.
second.
Doug? Not here?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Before we vote on the ordinance, I don't want commentary, but I just want to headline, were some of the things addressed that were concerns? Okay. 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 All right, all right, I already have a motion and a second to adopt it. I just need a roll call vote. Karen?
Aye.
Oh, Mike?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Next up is public hearing for establishment of the rules for the dog park. There is a public hearing, but I don't have anybody signed up. Is there anyone here to speak on that? No? Okay. I will open and close public hearing at 7:55. All right, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Great. Any discussion?
I would just like to comment that a lot of research went into this and looking at other dog parks in the state of Virginia. Research was done by Rob Murphy and by previous mayor and town council. And then this was reviewed by our attorney to make sure that it conformed with any state laws and fell into place.
Rob, is the sign ordered already? Or are we going to order it?
Yeah, the sign actually got priced yesterday, and they were to be ordered today. I didn't see the purchase order yet, but,
Okay.
so yes, it is ordered. We anticipated a couple weeks.
What sign is that? Robin, what sign is that?
Is that for the rules? Or did
Yeah.
you, is that already?
The rules is
The
already
rules
up.
are there.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me.
But the-
It's just a sign, and it has to do with the COVID.
Oh, the COVID stuff, okay.
Okay,
All right.
yeah. Because the ordinance allows rules to be adjusted as they need to by.
Yes, I like that.
So if something seems to be inappropriate, the town manager has the authority to make those rules adjustments, or the parks manager, whoever's overseeing the park. But this is the basic ordinance that enables us to enforce the rules associated with the park.
I don't know if, whoever sent me the email titled "Fed Up" is watching this meeting or not, but we know, and we are trying to open the dog park, okay? That's all they want. They want us to open the dog park. We are working on it. We have to pass an ordinance. So, anyway, I understand. Was that you, really, Santiago? No, okay. Oh, gosh.
I just have one quick question, and I'm all for this ordinance, but an ordinance is good as long as you can enforce it. Who's going to enforce all these specific rules and regulations?
So we have to have an ordinance also to protect our liability. And I agree with you that enforcement is complicated, but it is a complicated issue with many of our ordinances as well. But that shouldn't stop us from also moving forward. But I understand that frustration. And I won't take comments from the audience though. Thank you. Okay. There's a grammatical thing should be in B1 as defined in town code instead of as defined.
Yeah, that was supposed to be fixed.
Okay. Is there any other discussions? Okay, I'll start down here. Kevin? Mr. Montague?
Aye.
Robin?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Yes, Mr. Bailey? Okay. Town Council Communication and Transparency Update. This was just on the agenda so I could update that we are working on a newsletter to send out with the water bill. We're keeping it simple and within the budget, so it's nothing fancy, but every council member has had an opportunity to write an update and submit it. And so I just, we are also looking into how to update the website, and that's really a big one because it's how the website operates with the public, how it's presented on your mobile phone, because that's difficult. And also how our work order system from Public Works, our new work order system is gonna start to integrate. That's something Tom and I talked about a little bit when we visited Public Works. So there's an overhaul of the website coming, and God bless her for working with that. She's excited though. And the newsletter will be quarterly, just with the water bill. We're just including with that so that we don't have to pay for more postage. And it's a start to some things, but I just wanted to update. Is there anything else on?
I was just curious, our email addresses are on the website, but our town phone numbers are not. Is that something that's going to be added or?
Yeah, we can get that added. Yeah.
Yeah, if
That's
that's
not on there.
if you guys want your town cell phones added to the website, then we can do that. That's not a problem.
I will.
Just send me an email if you want it posted, and then I'll let Maggie know.
Okay.
And will you also make sure that town council at colonialbeachva.net is on there, so that people understand they can just email towncouncil@colonialbeachva.net, and it will always go just, and that's just council members, nobody else is on that. If you need things to go to Mr. Murphy or, Heather or something, you have to specifically call them out, but should make it a little easier to get in touch with everybody. And moving on to new business then, resolution 1021 trademark permit to use. We'll do a motion second and then have discussion on this. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All right, let's open up. I'll get Mr. Rock here to introduce it.
Our former mayor made a presentation on our trademark marketing logo in December of 2018, but with no posted minutes. I have no idea why we pursued federal registration, nor do I have any particular insight as to how marketable this logo is or will be. though with its recent appearance on the water tower, it now occupies a very high profile. We have the option at this point of essentially abandoning the registration by ignoring infringements or continuing to manage. By management, I mean that we incur an obligation to watch for infringements, to license users, to collect examples of use, and file forthcoming declarations with the trademark board. The resolution that you have before you will continue the management of our registration. Our goal should be, as with any marketing logo, the broadest possible dissemination. To borrow a phrase from trademark law, this is its use in commerce. If we retain the registration, then licensing will provide our local businesses the opportunity to sell items bearing our logo, everything from t-shirts to hats to beach towels to flags, koozies, hoodies, glassware, and on. And by signing agreements, they would also be able to advertise that they are authorized retailers or officially licensed or words to similar effect. From a marketing perspective, it is our hope that every visitor to town this spring and summer will feel compelled to buy several items bearing our logo and then go home. And then when they go home, they will proudly display or wear these items. And as conversation pieces with their friends and neighbors, they will talk about the wonderful time that they had in Colonial Beach. At this point, I can only guess what the summer looks like or how much traction this logo will get. And so understand clearly, I am really unable to make a strong argument either for or against retaining our registration. But as we are dealing with the unknown, I suggest the wisest course at this point is to maintain our registration, recognizing that if we give it up, it's lost forever, and enter into one-year licensing agreements with the idea that we'll revisit this matter next spring.
Thank you, Tom. I would like to amend one thing in the resolution. Under now therefore be it resolved. Item number 2 says the fee for nonprofit licensed users may be waived on the representation that the trademark will not be used for any commercial or fundraising purposes. I agree with the commercial. I don't think our nonprofits should be producing items that are going to compete with the local businesses. However, fundraising is what nonprofits do. So if we scrapped the or fundraising purposes, that would enable a local organization to, at wholesale prices, have the logo put on t-shirts or coffee mugs or whatever, and then give them as a gift for membership, or put them in a gift basket for a silent auction. So that's my reasoning behind scratching the or fundraising purposes.
My question would be, can we formally support a non-governmental or a nonprofit organization? Is that endorsing, and do we get any trouble with endorsing? If that's the case, then that's fine.
I don't think so. It's just waive our licensing fee. You're still licensed.
They still have to get an agreement with us, but they just don't have to get a fee.
And it's the trademark is that it means they have to reproduce it exactly as is. They can't play with it, right?
My only concern on that is that if we're going to be successful in disseminating this through our commercial vendors, that we don't want to get an undue competition. That would be my concern. But if you are a business that wants to use it, pay $50, sign the agreement, you can or you don't have to. So I mean, it's a business decision on the part of businesses whether or not they get the agreement. And that's their judgment call that on dealing with the competition.
So is there a second to my amendment? So
Oh, sure, I'll second the amendment. And we're discussing the amendment right now. Okay. If the trademark, I don't, part of me, I'm a little bit torn about this because part of me thinks the best thing to do with the trademark is to get it out as many places as you possibly can. You know? And so, but also you do want to add value to the retail establishment that then pays for the trademark. I'm torn on that one. I don't have.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I think the point is, at this point, we simply don't know. We don't know its value, we don't know its traction, we don't know how widely it's going to be used, how the recognition is going to go. Obviously, with the logo on the water tower, it's now taken on some profile. And what I'm suggesting, and again, this is not a hard suggestion, I understand that, but probably the wisest thing would be to keep the ball in the air for a year, see what happens. If it doesn't work out, we just make it.
If I may, one other observation, is if you think that the $50 would be a deterrent, you could lower that, but to the point of, managing your trademark and monitoring it, I would guess that 99.9% of the uses would be the favorable ones that you want to get out. However, there is a risk that there would be an unfavorable use of the trademark. And by having something like this, you retain the ability to stop that.
I can appreciate that. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, so let's vote on the amendment of striking or fundraising purposes. Right, for any commercial or fundraising, just those two words, right? Right.
So the period comes in after commercial.
No, it comes in after purposes. Purposes stays, I apologize.
Right, so, or fundraising, you're right.
For any commercial purposes.
Correct.
On that resolution, Karen, how about it?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay. And then for the, are we ready to vote on the whole thing then? Yep. Okay. I'll go this way then.
Aye.
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 Excellent. Okay. So we did strike or fundraising and accepted it. Let's see how it goes for a year, revisit it in a year from now. Revisit it in a year from now, here. All right, next up, and I'm sorry this was held towards the end of the meeting because it's a very important piece of tonight's meeting. It's the exception of the resignation of Councilmember Patrick I. I would like to have his statement. I have like 15 copies of this, but I don't have his statement.
No, I've got it.
You gotta pull it up, Heather. Councilmember I'm gonna miss that. Started this adventure together in many ways. And he's a really critical piece. And I really am gonna miss his presence here, what he represents here. He represents some really unique things, some pretty special parts of Colonial Beach, being who he is. And so I am wishing him well. I am always and indeed proud of him and his decisions he has to make in his personal life. But he did move, and you can't stay on council when you don't live in town limits. He reads, Colonial Beach Town Council members and mayor, I would like to inform you of my resignation from Colonial Beach Town Council effective February 7th, 2021, or February 17th, sorry. I am grateful for having had the opportunity to serve on the council for a few years now and am proud of the accomplishments this team has made. I wish the best of luck to you all in your future endeavors. Sincerely, Patrick I. Just like that. Sweet and simple. In the best ways, in the best ways. So it's with a heavy heart that I bring this to a motion and to accept his resignation. He'll be hard to replace, but I really do wish the best for him, and I'm excited for him in his personal life. You know, it's hard to make those changes. So, Tom's like, I'm here forever. Done. All right, I will.
So do you need to second that motion?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, I'll read the resolution first. Resolution,
It's gonna be 1121.
1121. To accept the resignation of council member Patrick I. Whereas Patrick I was elected by the citizens to serve on the Colonial Beach Town Council for a term commencing on January 1st, 2019 and ending on December 31st, 2022. And whereas Patrick I resigned his position on Colonial Beach Town Council by letter dated February 17th, 2021, effective immediately. Whereas Virginia Code 24.2-226 and 24.228 and 3 of the Colonial Beach Town Charter permit as a member of council is elected by special election. Whereas the same Virginia's code chapters in Colonial Beach Town Charter require that a special election be conducted to elect an individual to serve for the remainder of Mr. I's term. Now therefore be resolved that the Colonial Beach Town Council at its regularly scheduled meeting, the resignation of Mr. Patrick I, and finally resolved that the town attorney is directed to request that a special election be held on November 2nd, 2021 to file a petition for Ray in a special election on behalf of the Colonial Beach Town Council as required by state law.
Second.
Okay. There you go. All right. Ms. Sullivan.
Aye.
I don't know. Right now, he's not allowed to, and he has to move back, and he has to stay. But it didn't matter, because I got outvoted. Okay. That's all I have.
Do we want to address the process that we use to fill the vacancy?
Yes, excellent. So, I'd like to propose, or you want to propose it?
Well, I think we need to articulate some type of procedure or protocol simply so people will know if they're interested. If people are interested, they know what to do.
Yeah.
It's simple as that.
So we will open the seat for, letters of interest. You can include a resume or background information for, the next 2 weeks until our work session. And then we will review them, at that time.
And I presume that we're going to have
Yes, they should be sent to holiver@colonialbeachva.net or dropped off, at the Dropbox at Town Hall before that time. And, we have 30 days to fill it, so we don't have to make the selection at the work session, but I think we should go ahead and limit it to the 2 weeks so that we have time. I mean, I don't think, but
Robin, for that, in the past, the precedent had been before this council came to being that whoever got the next highest number of votes was automatically put on. And, what I feel is that if there's an election, then the highest number of votes should count. But as a town council, as we are appointing somebody, there's no election involved. I feel like we need to choose the person that can best serve the needs of the town and the needs that we have because that vacancy was created on council. So encourage people to, if they're interested, to send a cover letter and a resume so that we can evaluate what they can bring, their talents and skills to council.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, if I may clarify, under the charter, this appointment would be, until the end of, and I'm gonna confirm that there's no conflict with state law, but, your charter should control, it would be for the duration of the term because that is less, the end of the term is less than 2 years following the next election.
So in the past, we have had special elections at the soonest available time.
It depends, well, under the charter, it would be, just so that you know, as you undertake this process, I'll confirm with state code, but it may be, so, just so you know, that this is an issue. Under your charter, it is, the office of the council shall be filled within 30 days for the unexpired term. Provided that if the term of office to be filled does not expire for 2 years or more after the next regular election, following such vacancy, then the council shall fill the vacancy only for the period remaining until the election.
Yes, but we just asked to petition that a special election be held on November 2nd.
But you can't do that. You can't contradict your charter.
So could you clarify that again? So because there's less than 2 years left,
Yes,
we should fill the vacancy for the remainder of the term?
it would be for the remainder of the term, yes.
Lawyers conferring here.
Okay,
Can we?
let's look into that and
Let's
discuss
flush that
that at
out,
the next
yeah.
work session.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Because I think that there may be, I think we need to look into that before.
I'll compare that with the state code provisions, but generally speaking, your charter will trump the state code.
Okay, well, there's a reason, like the way Tom said with the trademark, there's a reason that things have been done, so I don't wanna.
Well, I think it's because there was.
No, that's not true.
That's not, that has.
That was not the case. Okay.
I've read that provision of the charter several times, and it is the most inartfully legislative language I think I've ever seen.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
Aye.